The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Renato. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens? Ah, Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he did not exactly own. Lapino always wiggled out of trouble, given time. But he was out of time. Lapino's frantic message said that the Ravens were going to kill him for being a rebel spy. And that he had a clever plan. If the fleet reached him first, they'd string him up for that. Never mind the winged horse. Or so Lapino had told him over the far speaker anyway. Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens? Renato had a lot of crafting materials. Now all he needed was a crafting bench. People were frightened these days. Just 2 weeks past, Renato had sneaked through an empty town and listened to the Ravens call about the Emperor's new taste in ritual sacrifice. Once, he found a Superman issue #1 in mint condition in a jar he'd broken. He planned to keep breaking things until he had the whole series. Renato looked around the empty village. How had he ever imagined Lapino was anything but a traitor? Any honest rabbit would have fled with the villagers. There was blood on this one. so it hadn't saved its owner. Bernardo checked for a false compartment. Nope. Where was a workbench when you needed one? Oh, never mind. What was the point of this gate? Did they think no one would notice the lever? The right jewel could really give you an edge. The wrong, well, it still looked pretty, didn't it? There was still no sign of Lapino. Not a hair, not a pellet. Was he hiding in the cemetery further down the road? That didn't seem like him. Felt back for littering, but these islands were short on trash cans.
Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him, and it would blow up in his face. Yeah. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be a first.
I think this is yours, said Renato, but he couldn't hear his enemy's answer. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, we see this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia. We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows, and that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who also happened to be a deadly sorcerer and, his only daughter? That would be worth it. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. She'd been Renato's best friend in Sword Fu school. And you're still mad for her, the rabbit reminded him. They'd been close. She'd told him things no one else knew. But she'd never told him who she really was.
She knows all the Emperor's plans, chuckled the master spy.
She won't give them up easily.
She'll tell the interrogators, all right,
said Lapino. Taking her would change the game, all right.
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
In this chest, there were woodcuts of amazingly beautiful vixens wearing no clothes at all. And something more useful.
The Emperor! Called the ravens. What was really fun was hooking yourself onto a moving ship. fly, thought Bernardo. You couldn't hack this kind of firewall. You had to warm it up to you.
Bernardo, smash!
Fire? Yes, please. Why was Lapino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap. But you never knew how Lapino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lapino wanted. Yeah, there must be some way to play on that, Bernardo thought. Gogglers. Bernardo hated gogglers. It was almost impossible to sneak past them. If one didn't spot you, another one would.
So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lapino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lapino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renardo hiding inside a monstrous watermelon.
What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renardo. Oh, go ahead. I'm sure you know better, said Lapino. Maybe I should follow my nose, thought Renardo. Boy, someone has spent a lot of money for a graduation present.
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up on her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek. How soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She became smoke. And he noticed he had a blade to his throat. Stay a while. Heard a familiar voice. Did you really think you could capture me? Zenobia said as her ship lifted off. Now I just wanted some privacy, Renato said. Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? And he told her why. His Imperial Majesty wanted to bring the lost gods back. They could make him immortal. But to seal the bargain, he needed a sacrifice. Someone who truly loved him. You're lying. She was furious. You can't prove that. I can. And so, they set sail for the Nexus. The scientists at the Observatory have resurrected one of his victims. Well, he's not exactly alive, but it can talk, and it can't lie. You took a big risk. You know, I could just cast a spell to make you tell me where the rebel base is. And you wouldn't consider that cheating? She frowned. Ugh, fine. Let's go get your witness. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them. Well, they really needed to redecorate anyway. She caught up with him. Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing black magic? Why? Would you want to join in? Oh, no, I'd destroy his books and... All right, I suppose I wouldn't.
She stopped, troubled. He ran on. The scientists on this island had been investigating the Emperor's dark rituals on their own. They were neutral in the civil war engulfing the Empire, but they could see that the dark magics the old toad had loosed were changing the world. Renato hoped he and Zenobia weren't putting them in danger. Building these platforms was so expensive, they'd run out of budget for guardrails.
Tired of doing that, thought Renato. Good thing Renato didn't have vertigo. The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The ravens had taken care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared around, shocked. The scientists had been neutral. They had no part in the rebellion. Take me to your council, she said, shaken. I have things to tell them. It was what Renato had gambled on. The Zenobia would turn against her father once she knew his madness. But the rebel base was secret. Could he really risk taking the Emperor's daughter there? Renato reached Lapino by Farspeaker Toad.
No, we should take her to the base,
Insisted Lapino. No, I don't trust her. Nobody changes sides that fast, said Renato.
I better go to the base. Let them know you've got her.
Lapino said.
For some reason, Renato wasn't sure that was a good idea.
Just meet me at the far side of the mountains. There's a shuttle here I can take,
Always has to be your way, doesn't it?
said Lapino.
Zenobia was still shaking as they got out. "I didn't know," she said. "The Ravens kept it secret. At first they sacrificed prisoners, then villages near the frontier, and then an orphanage. Kittens and puppies. Sometimes he'd come back to the palace and it was like there were glowing things behind his eyes. But I was so busy." "I'll clear a path for us," Renato told Zenobia, "so the Ravens don't see you."
He felt like Tarzan.
Renato had always wanted a flying carpet. This was more like a flying tabletop, but it would do. Zenobia came up as he massaged his sore arm. Her eyes were wet. "He's been saying strange things. He asked me to do experiments, and some were wrong." "They are banished, right?" said Renato. "Gone forever. I mean, he couldn't actually bring the old gods back, could he?" She didn't answer him. That frightened him more than anything. Renato had learned so much. It was time to turn it into something he could use. It wasn't his fault. They looked so breakable. Renato wondered if he should have taken Zenobia to the rebel base for real. Maybe she wasn't playing him after all. After the bleak talk about the Emperor's dark secrets, he was regretting his suspicions.
They came up on an empty shack. He gestured her in. "Where's the base?" she asked, confused. "I thought we could talk a bit first."
Oh, you think I'm playing you? She was furious. I'm betraying my father who picked me out of an alley, and you think I'm playing you?
She lashed out. Her claws sliced fire into his face. Energy boiled in her other paw. But before she could kill him, he slashed his sword into her heart. She staggered. "I could have loved you, you son of a bitch." And then she died.
Renato stood there for hours, unable to move. Finally, a ship landed near him. Lapino had brought the Farfarer. On board the Farfarer, Lapino couldn't stop grinning.
I can't believe you actually killed her.
Why didn't I trust her? Renato said. All he could feel was emptiness.
You killed the Emperor's daughter.
You might want to run for it, if you care whether you live or die, that is. Since Renato didn't, he grabbed the wheel, and he sailed for the Imperial fleet. Renato had never felt worse. Zenobia had listened to him. He had trusted him. She had opened her eyes to her father's evil. Done everything he had hoped for. He had taken her to a dirty shack. Was he so used to lying that he couldn't trust even the girl he had always loved? There was a pleasant breeze coming through that door. Had it been closed before?
He could see the rebels reeling back as he plunged into the ranks of the Ravens. He'd had to kill the girl he loved, but he'd also blown the biggest opportunity they could have had, to turn the Emperor's daughter against him. Oh, Renato could only laugh miserably. He was taking crazy chances now, swinging wildly. He expected the Ravens to take him at any moment, but they were running in fear. No one wants to fight a man who doesn't care if he lives. No one wants to fight a hero.
Imagine getting a horse up in one of these things. He would be cursing a blue streak. What else could you hook?
He was exhausted, could barely think. He wanted to stop thinking. The rebels were already finished, and he was the last. The Ravens were coming for him personally now, in waves. It didn't matter. He was slick with his own blood, but it didn't matter. In the distance, he could see her, embraced by a halo of light, holding her hand out to him. Had she forgiven him? Would she take him to the halls of the Valiant? Then he felt steel in his belly, and his chest, and his back. And he lay down, and he couldn't see her anymore. And just like that, he was alive again, and back on the Farfarer, still fleeing burning Ubar. The book was still open before him. So, the book was a portal. It took you to the future, when your destinies would branch. He had failed and died 3 times, but he'd learned another true thing. Zenobia still had feelings for him.